Resurrection is the name of the CD, and it's a group of guys that have been playing for, gosh, over 50 years. They were there in the early 60s and started it in New York City, took it to California, and they're back after all that time, all that love, all that music, and the latest release, what a great title, Resurrection. They've come up, not out of the ground, but because they're not in it yet, they're still at it, and it's so good to have this CD in my hands. The Druids, August 2017, just came out, and we're going to be playing some songs for that, and we're going to be talking to the lead vocalist. David Budge is going to be calling in, and we're going to have a heck of a time. David, are you there?
Yes, I'm having a little trouble hearing you.
How's that? Is that better?
That's a little bit better, yeah.
David Budge, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing us to speak with you.
Well, it's we, the Druids, who owe you guys thanks there at WBOR for being gracious enough to give us a world premiere and help launch this record that we've waited 50 years to make.
Wow, 50 years. So let's talk a little bit about some of that history and when it all began. First of all, the title Resurrection, how appropriate is that, right?
Resurrection is the title, and in a way it encapsulates the Druid story. 50 years ago, because we were lucky enough to be one of the predominant New York City club bands, we attracted enough attention to get an offer to record from Uni Records, and in fact, 50 years ago, made our debut for them. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, they envisioned us as a pop psychedelic outfit, much like the Strawberry Alarm Clock, who were also on that label. Mm-hmm. And that couldn't have been further from who we are now and who we were then. And just to be plain spoken, we were nasty, raw, and totally bluesy rock band.
So you
and hopefully that spirit has, carried on into this album. We've had reunions over the years, keeping that flame burning, and we made a promise that if we ever got the chance, we'd live it out, we'd fulfill it. And I'm really proud to say that the opportunity came and we seized it.
So you would I think it sounds like, to clarify, you weren't a garage psychedelic band. Your roots were really in the blues, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I mean, we were a rock and roll band. I don't want to mistake that.
Yeah.
But we learned fairly quickly after hearing the Rolling Stones and John Mayall and some of the Brits where that music had come from, and naturally we went and looked it up and started playing these incredible artists, and we always featured blues during our live performances. With our own stylized, version of the songs that we fell in love with.
Mm-hmm. So I'm dying to put up a cut here from the CD, the first one we will have played tonight, but I want to get your direction on this. What do you think? What would you lead off with?
Well, I think perhaps Robert Johnson's Hellhound Blues might be an appropriate way to start.
Mm-hmm.
If we take into account the fact that proponents of the Delta blues sort of begin with Robert Johnson, and everything blues-wise is somehow attached to him, at least in terms of starting the momentum.
All right.
We found a song that we were surprised hadn't really been interpreted that much in any other context but Robert's original version. Mm-hmm. And I'm referring to the fantastic version by John Hammond, but we envisioned it in a different way, which will be quickly evident when you hit the button.
All right. Well, let's cue it up. And that is another great thing about this release. The liner notes are you've done your work, your research, and it's behind every song of one of these chestnuts, as it were, and it's great. It's very detailed. So let's listen to Hellhound by Robert Johnson, and we'll be right back.
That tree. The moon is rising, the hounds won't let me be. Is my rider with them, or is my rider with me? I got to keep on moving, or blues fall down like hail. I got to keep on moving, or blues fall down like hell. I hear them bark all night, hellhounds on my trail. I hear them bark all night, a hellhound on my trail.
Oh, that's Hellhound right there. David, I like that song.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. Let me get your volume here. There we go. Is that better?
Yes, that's fine.
We just heard from the Druids Resurrection, the Druids of Stonehenge Resurrection. We heard Hellhound, one of the cuts off there by Robert Johnson. And before we went off air, we talked a little bit about the liner notes. You put your work into that, you guys, huh?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, because we're very conscious of where this music has come from. And Carl Hauser, who produced the album, plays bass on it, is co-founder of the Druids, and sings on the record, backing vocals. He and I and Billy Cross really wanted to make sure that we gave proper credit to our heroes, because there would be no rock and roll without the blues. And I think for anybody that gets into the album, who's a blues fan, some of this information, they may know, but I think a lot of it is fresh stuff. Mm-hmm. The bottom line is, these guys, infused us with their spirit. And though we have interpreted their material, we just felt that there was no alternative to giving them their props. Hence the extensive liner notes.
I like the some of the writing also on the cover. All of the songs that we have resurrected, parenthesis, and that have resurrected us. Very well put on that, for sure.
It's an accurate statement. When a band starts out, I don't know what expectations they have. I don't know what expectations we have. I don't really recall, because it was just so much damn fun. We didn't stop to think about it. And in life, we all follow, a course. In some cases, it's a course that you're setting out on. In another, instance, it's a course that's chosen for you. Ours is probably a little of both, because we loved rock and roll and blues so much. We hope to take it the distance. Then this crazy thing called life kind of interrupted that flow. And, we pursued our individual, life paths, but we never lost touch. And when we say resurrection, we resurrected that feeling that we had when we first got together. And for me, it's so special because, the Druids are my brothers from another mother, as the phrase would go. And, we've never stayed out of touch. As I think I've mentioned, we've had many, many reunions where we played this music and talked about, actually someday getting down to cases, hence this record. And, we've taken it the proverbial distance, and we couldn't be happier. So
let's talk a little bit about the band mates. You mentioned a couple of them.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, Carl Hauser co-founded the Druids with Bill Tracy and Tom Workman. I think it was in 1965. I was asked if I wanted to audition for the band, and I couldn't get to New York fast enough. I was enrolled at Syracuse University at the time. As we progressed through the years, one of our arch competitors, Mr. Billy Cross, whose distinctive guitar work is heard throughout the album, and he's drawn praise from people like Spencer Davis and Taj Mahal and even John Hall from Hall & Oates. I mean, there's a broad spectrum of people who've just gone, wow, this guy can play. And he was in a rival band of the Druids. His band was called the Walkers. And we wound up showing up at each other's gigs because of mutual admiration. And finally, in the 90s, the Druids decided we were going to have one of our celebrated reunions. And we invited Billy to join us, and he has been, a full-time Druid and inspiration ever since. Filling out, this roster that's on this record is Magic Kramer, who did a lot of the mixing and recording at his studio in San Fernando Valley. His keyboard work is inspirational. He also plays guitar. I mean, there isn't anything he doesn't play. And if you don't believe me, look at the Ray Charles Genius Loves Company album, which also features Magic.
Cool.
He's always kept good company. He and Carl were in a band called the Hollywood Underground. And so, again, the thread winds its way all the way back to, the original incarnation. Sadly, we lost our original drummer, Steve Tyndall, to a heart attack when he was a younger man. I think he had just turned 51. But Roger Kahn, who plays drums on Resurrection, was a student of Stevie. And if anybody could pick up the ball and run with it, Roger can, and he has, and I think brilliantly. And we are really, just delighted that, though he has his own, life and raised a beautiful family, he's an all-in Druid, as we say. As is Carl's daughter, Maria Hauser, who sings backing vocals on the album. this is a very talented young lady, and we are very fortunate, I think, that she's allowed us to make her an official Druid. So that's pretty much the core.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think what we'll do is, as we go forward and perhaps play live shows, maybe augment that lineup, you know, with a specialist here and there, somebody that blows a mean harp or a tenor sax for that matter.
Sure.
There's a lot of room in this music to move.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's put up another. Folks, we're talking to David Budge, lead vocalist for a group, the Druids of Stonehenge, and want to put up another cut. And then I'd like to get into a little bit of the history of, at the time in the 60s when these guys started in New York City.